Hello, I am Joe.
And I am Jack.
And today we are going to talk about our all-time best upgrades from our time here at BikeRadar.
However, before we get on, you might be wondering why we're looking so charming, dashing and handsome in these beautiful suits.
Well, in the last few months, there's been quite a few comments on the channel from you, our beloved audience, about our appearance. Namely, we look pretty scruffy.
There's one comment in particular from a recent video that Joe would like to share with you.
He is annoying. He needs a shower. Then he needs to brush his teeth. He is representing himself and all of BikeRadar, but he doesn't respect himself or all of BikeRadar enough to even portray a decent sense of self-pride in his appearance. Then he doesn't have the bike, so we mostly see his oily face and hair in between shots of the yellowing gap in his teeth. Shame.
Now we take audience feedback very seriously, hence the snappy suits.
So we want you to let us know if you prefer Smart Joe and Jack or Scruffy Joe and Jack.
And as always, before we get on to the products, do not forget to like, subscribe, and click that little bell icon so every time we upload a video like this, you will get a notification. Wow!
So enough tomfoolery, now down to the serious stuff, the upgrades. It's worth bearing in mind here that Jack and I do a lot more XC and endurance mountain biking, so if you want to see the Dude Shreddington upgrades, you're going to have to wait for the same video from Tom and Seb in coming weeks.
So kicking things off is an upgrade that, despite being into more cross-country stuff, is universal across mountain biking, and that is the dropper post. It's a pretty tired argument, and I say tired because there's pretty much no argument to not have a dropper post in the majority of cases, but even for the kind of more long distance stuff that Joe and I like to do, you just get that really improved level of control, slightly less stressful descending compared to a high posted bike, and the marginal increase in weight, even through your testing, which you did a couple of years back now.
Yes, I did a test for cross-country racing, and even though the differences were marginal, it seemed that using a dropper could improve your performance. Years ago, there was an issue with droppers maybe not being the most reliable, and the kind of maintenance around them made them pretty difficult to live with, but now
things are getting a lot better. And also on the cross-country side, there's been quite a few interesting products that we're yet to try out. There's that new DT Swiss dropper, which kind of inverted the arrangement. So essentially you have the sliding portion going over like a regular sized seat post. And there's also a similar one from FRM, which we also talked about years ago, which was very similar as well. So weight's coming down, it's a no-brainer for me.
My first upgrade, and I suspect one that young Jack will agree with, is tubeless tyres. Way back in 2012 when I got my first kind of proper race mountain bike, very nice Scott scale which I still have locked in a bedroom somewhere, it had tubes in the tyres. As soon as I left the shop, I pumped those tyres up to 25 psi as someone had told me, and within about 10 minutes of riding them on a trail, I'd pinch flatted them. I soon learned that there was a cool technology called tubeless, which eliminated the need for a tube, instead replacing it with sealant, which would seal any kind of puncture in the tyre. And since then, I haven't looked back. Yes, you do still get the odd catastrophic puncture when you're using tubeless, but maybe I get one a year, you?
If that. And also it's not just puncture protection. You get to run those lower pressures, improve traction, better ride quality.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The real benefit with tubeless is those lower pressures. I weigh around 64 kilos, so I can run my pressures if I'm really wanting to risk it down to about 20 psi. You get much more grip then, much more climbing control, and it seems to help with rolling resistance as well. Having a really hard tyre means the tyre's just getting booked off the trail like that. If it's a lot lower, the tyre just is smooth on the trail and you roll that much faster. So for us, riding a bike without tubeless would never happen. And on to your upgrade number 2.
I really like oval chainrings. I've used them extensively on road, gravel, loads of different other things, but of all things, on mountain bikes, low cadence efforts, climbing with an oval ring, I'm a real convert. I think they just give you that slightly smoother pedaling more than anything on kind of loose terrain, which means that it's much easier if you're on steep terrain to kind of maintain traction. There's all sorts of other claims as well around like your knees and overall pedaling efficiency, but really just from a feel and control perspective, I think there's a significant improvement with an oval ring, and you are the same.
Yeah, I totally agree. I first used a rotor Q-ring, that's the oval ring I've used, at the beginning of 2018. Since then, it's all I've used on the various bikes I've had. Just like Jack, the claims around increased speed and things like improved knee health, I'm not so sure about, but again, where it does help is just with the general feel. Pedaling on those climbs, even pedaling on the flat, I feel like I'm getting a bit more traction and it's just helping me over that dead spot in the stroke. When I go back to a round ring, especially on mountain bike, it doesn't feel quite as nice. So oval rings, again, for both of us, primo upgrade.
Like Joe, I've used rotor Q-rings probably more than anything, but I've also used one from Absolute Black, and for me, it's a real no-brainer. I really like the feel, and I think it makes a significant improvement to your riding.
My second upgrade is full finger gloves with a super thin palm. I like a really connected feel to the bars when I'm mountain biking, and if I'm out on a fairly chilled ride, I'll just go without gloves. But when it comes to XC or marathon racing, when your heart rate's up max, I find that you're going to need to wear gloves for those inevitable crashes. Gloves with thicker palms and gel inserts are okay, but I think they lead to a kind of disconnected feel on the bars, and you kind of end up with your hands rolling a bit like that. You also get bunching on the palm just there where the material bunches up. So I usually go for the tightest and thinnest glove I can find, especially on the palm, which helps improve that connection. Some gloves I've liked over the last few years is a pair of Troy Lee gloves that we both use, and a pair of Pox that we lost in a bin bag on a launch back in 2018. But yeah, unless it's really cold, I'll be using the thinnest gloves I can possibly find.
Now, even though we started this video by saying that we are quaint and fragile cross-country boys, I do like to dabble in the odd little bit of Dude Shreddington off-roady radness now and then. And of all the things that really improved my riding, it was knee pads. If there was anywhere you're going to add protection alongside your helmet and gloves, I would definitely start with knee pads, because you're going to crash, for one thing, and banging your knees, particularly when they're knobbly like Joe and I's, is not a nice thing whatsoever. And alongside that, I'd say that feeling of kind of security just made me feel like I could push a little bit harder, and it was like a genuine revelation when I started wearing them regularly. When I first started mountain biking, which is actually how I really cut my teeth starting cycling, I used to wear knee pads and shin pads constantly, but they were really bad back in the day, and I kind of got put off them for a long time. But as things have moved on, you've got these kind of reactive knee pads, the ones which are essentially like a thick, heavy gel on the outside of like a Lycra sock, that react when they're hit. They're actually rideable for the whole day. You know, I've done big 6-hour rides. I remember riding on the Stump Jumper launch a couple of years back, big old day in the hills, and I left those knee pads on all day, and they were fine. So for me, if you want to improve your riding and of course improve your safety, I would definitely start off with knee pads. It's definitely one worth considering.
Go, 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 go.
From super thin gloves, I'm now moving on to super chunky grips with ear size silicone offering. Now, grips are very much a personal preference, but it seems on the XC scene at least, silicone grips, very popular.
Very popular.
First and foremost, I like the comfort that chunkier grips offer. When you're riding those kind of chattery fire roads or single track, they just help with those small vibrations that you get. They also feel nice when you're climbing out the saddle and you're kind of grinding with your hands like that. One place that they are not so great is that they can be an absolute pain in the arse to get on your bars. The method I've found that works is to hold the grip, spray it with as much WD-40 or something like that on the inside as you can, and shove them on as quick as you can. It's quite an effort, but once they're there, they are not going anywhere. But again, you need to be quick, because if that grip gets stuck halfway on, it's not going anywhere, and you're in trouble then.
ESI's actual official recommendation is to use a compressor and then like a rubber bung, and then you can scoot it on. And when I used to work in a shop, yeah, that's great, but who has a compressor at home?
Having used these grips for 8 years now, I've settled on the standard chunky version. But if you like something a little bit different, ESI do a thin version, an extra chunky version, and an ergonomic version. Either way, it's a product I'd highly recommend and something I'll be using for years to come. On to Jack's final upgrade.
I really like, for mountain biking, a good chunky soft shell jacket. Now obviously if you're riding out on a pissing wet day, you're probably going to want a full shell waterproof, but for me anyway, in these kind of more drizzly days where it's maybe just a bit moist out, a shell jacket means I'm going to cook from the inside out. So a good soft shell gives you that kind of nice balance between rain protection and kind of day-to-day comfort. I also find as well that because soft shell is quite a hardy material typically, again, if you make a habit of crashing, they give you a little bit more protection than just a jersey or a jersey with a shell jacket. Also, if you tend to ride with a rucksack or a trendy bum bag, then they also tend to wear a lot better than with just a regular shell jacket. I actually can't remember what my favourite one is. I think it's a Madison Zenith I've got, but I just really like the fit, the stretch. It wears really hard and it gives me just enough protection to be comfortable all day long. We've actually just published a full group test of these in our sister mag, Mountain Biking UK, and that will be on BikeRadar very soon. So check a link in the description when that goes live.
My last choice, and one again I'm sure Jack will absolutely agree with me, is that I am a one-bike kind of guy, which means we love one-bike drivetrains. Just like a lot of things within the bike industry, people, and I include myself in this, were pretty sceptical when one-bike drivetrains first started to hit the mainstream back in 2012. However, since then, they have come to almost totally rule the mountain bike group set world. As we now know, having one chainring at the front saves some weight, and I'd wager that it helps a bit with the mud and slot that most of us get in the winter when we're mountain biking compared to a double. If you read some of the comments on those early articles about one-bike drivetrains, gear range used to be a worry and an issue, didn't it?
What about the range of going my double?
But with rear cassettes now sailing comfortably past the 50 tooth mark, that is hardly an issue. Although granted, the costs of those top tier cassettes put a serious dent in your wallet. Thankfully, there are some more affordable options now coming onto the market. Obviously, there will be extreme cases where a double is still the best option, but you'll have to look to Shimano for a mainstream group set player that still do a double, as SRAM got out of the double game a few years ago. Either way, I'm sure we can both safely say, I'm sure you guys could say it as well, that one-bike group sets are a good thing.
But if you're still out there rocking a triple, you do you. We salute you.
So that is our choices. Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and
Click the little bell icon so every time we upload a video just like this, you will get a notification.
bye!